everyone, it's Ryan Howe with Small Business News. I got a good one for you today, especially if you've ever been a high performer in the workplace and been punished for that. We'll get more to that here in a minute. Again, for those that don't know, this is the show where I bring you just some of the information I share with my clients. I'm a business coach, works out of West Michigan and around the country. So anyways, let's get into it. High performing workers get 5 punishments at work that slackers don't experience. This is from Your Tango. They had some good stuff on business I thought we'd bring forward here today. Again, links to every article I discussed are always going to be listed in the description there. So let's go look at this here. Many high performers in the workplace have struggled with perfectionism, people pleasing, and academic gratification their entire lives. It's not something that develops overnight. Of course, in some cases, the intense motivation it provides in the workplace can be helpful for productivity, but in many times it leads to detrimental rewards. Greg Langstaff admitted on TikTok, echoing a Forbes article about performance punishment. Absolutely. And again, I've talked to my clients about this a lot at length about making sure that they are being fair with the work and how they are viewing their folks. Because at the end of the day, folks, people are lazy. Managers and leaders are no different. And there's a tendency to, oh man, I need to get this done. I need to get this for the boss, or I'm the boss and I need this done. You know, I'm just going to give this to Adam, or I'm just going to give this to Sarah because they always do great work and I just give it to them without even thinking about the workload they already currently have. That's just not okay. And we'll get into some of those details in a second here. But again, now, if you're surrounded by the right people, being a high performer is great for your career. So if you're a high performer and you're not being treated like the superstar you are, get yourself out of there and go somewhere they're going to treat you with the respect you deserve. So let's look at the 5 punishments that they talk about in this article. Now, they're rewarded with more work without extra pay. And before I get into that, I was going to talk about the one piece that I talk about my clients with is that they should be reviewing the job descriptions for their staff at least twice a year. You should be looking at everybody, what they're doing, and make sure their job descriptions reflect that. And if you're an employee, you definitely need to know what your job description says and make sure you are staying on top of that. And if there's anything you're being asked to do outside of your job description, that's real simple. Just go and say, hey, that's actually not in my job description. I'd like to make sure that's added in, and then just have a conversation about what that's going to look like going forward. Again, one-off things here and there are a thing, but if it comes the second time they come back to you, you need to make sure that's in your job description and have that discussion about, what that looks like going forward for you, be it compensation or, hey, I don't mind doing this, but I'm going to need an extra 2 days of PTO, something like that. Those are the negotiations you can definitely open up. So in a toxic workplace, many coworkers are not only undercompensated, but underappreciated for the work. Instead of rewarding high performers with raises, bonuses, or time off, the kind of benefits people truly yearn for, they instead hand them more work and harder tasks. High performers in the workplace are facing a number of disadvantages that their lower performing colleagues are not having to deal with. This includes being assigned extra work without extra pay. And it's absolutely something that you should be looking at as a manager if you're doing that, but also as an employee as well. Now, number 2, they're responsible for more difficult or time-consuming tasks. Not only are high performers more likely to have larger workloads after demonstrating their capabilities, but they also tend to receive more difficult tasks from leadership. If you could do administrative work, you could do this presentation, right? And manage this difficult team and follow up on troublesome client. It's almost as if they're passing off the kind of difficult work they'd prefer not to do. By the way, that's exactly what they're doing. There's an entire methodology for delegation that should be out there. And they want to basically clear some of their work off to other folks. Now, there's nothing wrong with delegating. It should be meant for training, something to help us move up, get ready for the next level. But if it's simply just passing something off that isn't within your job description or your expectation or your duties, again, that's the stuff you got to take a look at and be willing to have that conversation. And manager, if you're doing it, you should always make sure that you are looking to give those people, if they're willing to take it on consistently, you need to be adjusting their compensation. Now, they accidentally make enemies out of jealous peers. Now, this one does come up quite a bit. As the Japanese saying goes, the thumb that sticks out gets hammered. This is exactly what this means. It's human nature to harbor jealousy in certain situations, especially in a hostile environment like a toxic workplace where heightened emotions run rampant. This kind of growing resentment, especially from insecure or jealous peers, can lead to a great deal of active and passive conflict at work, making it hard for everyone to get out of bed in the morning. Again, especially in these type of environments where it's about being seen is who is given the plush assignments and who they can trust, right? And who's in their confidence are going to get the easy work, and everything else is spread out amongst everyone else. Number 4, they face retribution from fearful bosses. As high achievers continue to get more and more of themselves to their jobs, meeting and exceeding expectations is not just their colleagues and peers that grow jealous of the work ethics, but their bosses too. They might even be facing retribution from bosses who are afraid they're going to come for their jobs. Now, this is straight out of, like, if you haven't read this, Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Now, it's good to know these. Don't take these as, as a guidebook for how to manage yourself, but understanding, and the first law is never outshine the master. It's the first one that's in there. And this is what they're talking about, where you get retribution from bosses who are worried you are going to take their place. Absolutely something that happens. And here's a boss being toxic. Look at that. And lastly, we're going to get into the last one here is going to be high performers have higher expectations, often leading to burnout, while high achievers are more likely to experience burnout and have the highest percentage of work-related stressors. Their struggles also tend to fly under the radar. They're less likely to ask for help, talk with their bosses, and take a step back from work to rest, only exacerbating their dissatisfaction and unhappiness and struggling health. Even on their off days, they're held to a higher standard than their lower achieving colleagues, promoting a cycle of stress and recognition that burns out high achievers. And we're going to leave it there because, the phrase that I talked to a lot of my employees about, and the bosses and new managers that I was training and people that I worked with when I was in industry, was it's great to be needed when you're at work. It sucks to be needed when you're on PTO. And that's where you see a lot of these high performers. They get where you have not done your job to make sure that when people are at work, they're at work. And when people are away from work, they are away from work. That's what we want to have. That's a healthy environment where people want to come in and give their best, knowing that they can leave and, de-stress. So with that, again, the link to this article is going to be in the description there. And, if you find yourself in these situations where you are constantly, again, where you are being punished for your performance by giving more and more work, the sooner you start setting that boundary, the better. And if you find yourself in a situation where they will not accept, or you start getting retribution because you're trying to set boundaries, you need to get out of that place as soon as possible. Start looking for new jobs. Be prepared, because you may be let go because you are no longer just going to be the person they can just dump everything on. And if you're a manager, a business owner, if you're a leader, and your standard reaction to something new comes in is to give it to one person because you need it done correctly, you need to stop and put a mirror up and take a look at, like, okay, hold on. I have an entire team here. Why is it that I am constantly giving work over to X? I'm not doing my job and making sure I've developed a well-rounded, robust team that can take care of any work that comes up. That's a you problem as a manager and leader. That's not Adam or Sarah's problem, for the one you keep dumping work on. So that's it for today. Thank you for checking out the video. Again, hopefully I earned your subscription today. Take care, and I will see you next time.